Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. We'll share species research, information, and conservation proposals, and then spend part of the show holding space for contemplation and awe, improvising a soundscape of gentleness, of reflection, of delight, and also perhaps of grieving. Without conservation activity and significant societal shift, many of these species may not survive the 21st century. So perhaps we might acknowledge their journey with a moment of our attention, a recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Mulanje Cedar. The Mulanje cedar is a critically endangered conifer native to the African nation of Malawi, specifically to Mount Mulanje in the southeast of the country near Mozambique. Its scientific name is Widdringtonia whytei, and it was first described in 1894. The Mulanje cedar is a tall, evergreen conifer that can reach heights of 160 feet, with a trunk that can reach 5 feet in diameter. Their growth form changes as they mature. In juvenile stages, the tree is pyramid-shaped. Imagine a classic Christmas tree. This is a form adapted for more rapid vertical growth to compete for light. But then, as the Mulanje cedar matures and reaches the forest canopy, so this is sometime roughly aged 25 to 50, branches begin to spread outward into an expansive, broad, flat-topped crown, adapted now to better collect moisture from mist and fog. We see a comparable shift in the cedar's leaf form. Juvenile leaves are bright green, long, and needle-like, again adapted to maximize light absorption and also as a defense against grazers. But later, adult leaves are scale-like, tiny diamond-shaped leaves layered tightly on the branchlets, looking a bit like a braided rope, matte olive green in coloration. So when the tree is tall enough to be beyond the reach of grazers, and with a crown spread enough to get ample light, the leaves shift to this scale-like form to minimize water loss and collect fog. Mist and fog are frequent in the higher elevations of Mount Mulanje, and the Mulanje cedar is adapted to utilize this atmospheric moisture. The leaves and spread crown act as condensation surfaces. Atmospheric moisture, so clouds, fog, mist, condenses on the foliage and drips down to the tree's roots. This is called fog drip, and it provides crucial additional water to the tree during the dry season. The bark of mature Mulanje cedar is very thick, as much as 1.5 inches in depth. It's brownish-gray in color with a soft, spongy texture. The Mulanje cedar is somewhat fire-adapted, and this thick, spongy bark is a thermal insulation that protects the tree's vital interior from lethal temperatures, allowing it to survive low-intensity wildfires. That said, this thickened bark takes about 50 years to form and harden, so juvenile cedar remain very vulnerable to wildfire. The Mulanje cedar is monoecious, meaning that individuals bear both male pollen-producing cones and female seed-producing cones. Male cones are small and numerous, growing at the tips of the branches. They're yellowish-green to yellowish-brown, about 1/4 inch in length, and each bearing roughly 25 pollen sacs, which release pollen that is then spread by the wind. Female cones are larger, woody, and round, roughly 3/4 inch in diameter, dark brown to reddish brown in coloration, and hold roughly 3 to 10 seeds. Seeds are flat, ovoid, that's egg-shaped, about 1/4 inch in length, dark brown to black in coloration, and are winged. The seeds are dispersed by a menochory, so that's wind dispersal. The female cones are also somewhat serotinous. Serotinous describes how a cone will remain closed, delaying seed dissemination for an extended period after fertilization, often only opening following a trigger event like fire. Many fire-adapted conifers exhibit this trait, holding their seeds until the presence of high heat. But the Mulanje cedar is only semi-serotinous. Some of their cones will gradually open on their own, releasing seeds. But some remain closed on the tree, only released following fire. The fire's heat splits the cone open, dropping seeds into a now nutrient-rich ash and soil bed, totally free of competition. The Mulanje cedar is slow-growing. taking roughly 2 decades to reach reproductive maturity. And it can live for several hundred years. In the dream, to live for several hundred years. To cast shadow over generations. To gather mist to water innumerable life cycles in the understory. To offer uncountable seeds to the wind. To be a living symbol, totemic, tall above the peaks and plains. And also, though, to simply live. It is enough to just grow, to be witness to fire and storm, to drink light and fog, to cone and to open. There's a humility and dignity in surviving. In the dream. The Mulanje cedar is native to southeast Malawi, specifically to Mount Mulanje, a granite inselberg. An inselberg is a steep-sloped, isolated formation, a mountain or plateau that rises abruptly above the surrounding plains. Roughly 130 million years ago, an intrusion of magma pushed up the Earth's crust here, and in the time since, the surrounding rock eroded away, leaving behind the erosion-resistant granite, resulting in this isolated expanse of high elevation. This is a high-altitude rolling grassland, roughly 1.5 miles above sea level, intersected by deep forested ravines and pocked with even higher peaks. This is an Afromontane forest biome that sees over 100 inches of annual precipitation, with distinct wet and dry seasons. Wet season is roughly November to April, dry season is May to August. The warm, wet season sees highs averaging in the 80s Fahrenheit. Dry season lows dip into the 30s Fahrenheit with occasional frosts. Our Mulanje cedar is found at roughly 1 to 1.25 miles elevation in rocky, shallow, acidic soil, often in ravines, gorges, and valleys where moisture collects, where the soil is a bit deeper, and where the topography, nestled between granite rock faces, provides some protection. The Mulanje cedar can thrive across the upper plateau of the Inselberg, an area of roughly 75 square miles. The Mulanje cedar shares this mountain home with blue duiker, Cape ash, Broadleaf's grassland frog, Mulanje mountain chameleon, lemonwood, onionwood, kilpspringer, Shiromo frog, Mulanje red damselfly, king dwarf gecko, parasol tree, Ruo River screeching frog, Mitchell's flat lizard, East African yellowwood, Messick four-striped grass rat, Malawi stump-tail chameleon, yellow-throated apellis, black ironwood, Cape beech, and many, many more. Historically, the Mulanje cedar population was dramatically reduced by human overexploitation for timber. The cedar's wood is durable, termite and fungus resistant, has a lovely pale red hue, a straight grain, and even smells nice. As such, it has been used for hundreds of years for construction, fence posts, boat building, and even fine woodworking. By the middle of the 20th century, commercial industrial logging had removed the vast majority of the old-growth cedar. Today, though the tree is protected, illegal logging persists, with poachers targeting the few remaining mature trees found in the most remote ravines. Fire is also a threat. Though the Mulanje cedar is somewhat fire adapted, it is not well adapted to today's fire frequency. Historically, the natural fire cycle on the mountain was likely infrequent, giving our trees the roughly 50 years needed to grow their protective bark before the next burn. But today, fires are anthropogenic, human-caused, started by poachers, charcoal burners, or for land clearing, and occur almost annually. And so these frequent fires kill juvenile saplings before reaching reproductive age or growing their fire-resistant bark. The result is a kind of population squeeze. Tall, older reproducing trees are felled for timber, and young trees burn, leaving no successor generations. Additionally, human-introduced invasive species threaten the Mulanje cedar. The giant cypress aphid, an insect that feeds on the cedar's sap, was introduced to Africa in the 1980s and continues to impact our cedar's population. Invasive plants, like the Himalayan raspberry and the Mexican pine, compete with the Mulanje cedar for resources. Fortunately, all of the Mulanje cedar's remaining population grows within the Mulanje Mountain Forest Reserve. This is a protected wilderness. And a collaboration between the Mulanje Mountain Conservation Trust, the Forest Research Institute of Malawi, and Botanic Gardens Conservation International has initiated extensive conservation programs. Key to these programs is collaboration with local residents. Conservationists acknowledge that the root cause of the continued illegal logging is poverty. And so any protective efforts have to consider those economics. And so in response, community nurseries were established around the base of the Inselberg, staffed by locals to cultivate seedlings for restoration. Additional locals were then hired to plant these seedlings across the upper plateau. This was a massive undertaking, with over 500,000 seedlings replanted, and creating over 1,000 jobs in nursery management, planting, and forest monitoring. Fire management programs are also in place, with local residents employed to dig fire breaks to prevent the spread of wildfire to these newly replanted seedlings. And there is an off-site cultivation program in place at the Inala Reserve in Tasmania, Australia, to germinate seeds and cultivate saplings for a living off-site collection and to produce viable seedlings to share with other botanic gardens and eventually help reforest Malawi. Nevertheless, the Mulanje Cedar has been considered critically endangered on the IUCN Red List since 2013, and their population is currently in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 49 Mulanje cedar remain in the wild. Information for today's show about the Mulanje Cedar was compiled from Oryx, Volume 41, Number 1, from Neil Berger's Botany Honors Project at the University of Cape Town, from the Journal of Tropical Ecology, Volume 27, Number 5, from the IUCN, from Inside Africa, Season 21, Episode 21, from the Gymnosperm Database, from Threatened Conifers of the World, from the Journal of Global Ecology and Environment, Volume 17, Issue 4, from One Earth, from Leila Mitrani's master's thesis at the University of Cape Town, from the Journal of Basic and Applied Research International, Volume 3, Number 2, from the Mulanje Mountain Conservation Trust, from the Botanical Journal of the Linnean Society, Volume 123, Issue 4, from BG Journal, Volume 12, Number 2, and from Wikipedia. For more information about Mount Mulanje Conservation, please see the Mulanje Mountain Conservation Trust at mountmulanje.org.mw. And so now, I would like to perform some music in hopes of holding space to be in contemplation of the other lives with whom we share our earth. I do not intend to put meaning upon or extract meaning from the Mulanje Cedar. Instead, I want this music to express my simple human awe for other life. And so, I will pause in this space of sound and reflection, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Mulanje Cedar. I will commit its name to my record. I am so grateful to have shared time on our planet with this magnificent being. And I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. I grieve. And so, in the name of the Mulanje Cedar, I pledge to reduce my consumption, my carbon footprint, and my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and inactions. And I pledge to resist the harm of plant and animal kin and their habitat by individuals, corporations, and governments. I forever pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin. Goodbye.